Hey everyone, hope you all are well. I'm kicking things off today by using the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion. I'm sweeping a little of this across the eye area and then I'm switching to a synthetic brush and I'm using that then to buff the product into the skin. A primer will help your shadows to grip onto the eye area, it'll allow them to apply and blend with ease, and it'll also ensure that they last all day long as well, so it's a step not to be missed. I'm busting out the Urban Decay Stoned Vibes palette once more. I think this is my fourth and probably last tutorial with the palette, but I wanted to create a nice warm glitz and glam summer look. And the first shadow I'm taking is called Antidote, and this is a warm peachy shade that has a matte finish, and I'm using this as my transition shade. So I've picked up a touch of this on a fluffy brush and I've dusted off the excess product, as the shadow, while it's nice and opaque, it is a bit powdery in consistency, so you will get fallout down onto the face if you don't tap away before you begin. So I'm just running this shadow now back and forth in the crease and flicking my brush outwards on the outer portion of the eye, angling the shadow out towards the brow bone. And I tend to go for this kind of a shape the most because I think it's what suits my eyes the best. And I've just added another layer now. So I'm now moving on to a pencil brush, a little bullet shaped brush, and I'm applying that shade down along the lower lash line, sweeping from outer to inner corner, making my way across the lash line, and then making sure it connects on that outer edge. Then I'm taking the shade Hexed, and this is a warm toned brown matte shadow. It's a lovely orange toned brown which complements the previous shade nicely. It's not as powdery in the pan as the shade Antidote, so fallout with this shade in particular isn't really an issue. I've tapped it down on the outer portion of the eyelid and I'm using quite large circular motions now to really give that shadow a good buff and blend across the eye. It's one that does sheer out a bit with blending, but it's buildable, so I don't mind that. I'm going in now with a second layer of that shadow, as you can see, and I'm just tapping down on the outer third of the eyelid once again. Once I've got the majority of product off my brush, then I'm sweeping the shadow across into the crease, just blending back and forward using little circular motions to buff the colour out and flicking motions to pull it up and fade it out towards the brow bone. Then I'm going back in with that brush that I used to apply Antidote, and I'm using the excess product that's left on the brush just to run over the edges of the look to make sure that they are nice and soft and blended. Then I'm taking the shade Tiger's Eye, and this is a nice warm toned duochrome shadow. It's got a gorgeous mix of coppers and golds. There's even little pink flecks that sparkle in it as well. It's a gorgeous creamy shadow that's very easy to work with. I had no issues with blending, it just glides really nicely across the eye area and the coverage that it gives is fantastic. So you could apply it wet or dry depending on your preference, and you don't have to use a brush either. You could use your fingers to apply this shadow, whatever you fancy. But I'm just tapping now a second layer over the eye area to make sure that it's nice and opaque. Moving back down to the lower lash line now, I'm taking some of the eyeshadow Hexed again, just that warm toned matte brown, and I'm sweeping it all the way down along the lower lash line. Then I'm taking the shadow Third Eye, and this is a warm toned kind of dark plum eyeshadow, and it has a satin finish. It's the shadow that I like least in the palette. I don't find it the easiest to work with, but it's the darkest shadow in the palette and I wanted to add a bit of depth to the look. So I'm just using a very small amount of this shadow on a tapered blending brush. I'm patting it down on the outer third of the eyelid and then I'm sweeping it across into the crease just so that it frames that metallic shadow nicely. Next then, I'm taking the shadow Corrupt from Makeup Geek. It's just a single matte black eyeshadow. I've dipped my angled brush into the pan and now I'm pressing that shadow all the way along the upper lash line to help to hide the band of the lashes that I'll be adding in a moment. And I'm applying a dramatic pair of lashes and the band is a bit thicker, so I'm not keeping the shadow too close to the lash line. Then I'm dusting a very small amount of the eyeshadow Third Eye down along the lower lash line with the use of a bullet shaped brush, and I'm keeping this mainly to the outer edge of the eye. Then I'm using the small angled brush and a bit of that black eyeshadow and I'm pressing it into the lashes again just on that outer corner, pretty much just about a brush head width apart. Then I'm going to go back in with my bullet shaped brush, and I'm really buffing over the edges of that black eyeshadow to fade it out and give me a really nice soft and smoky feel to the lash line. Then to line my waterline, I'm using one of the longwear pencils from NARS in the shade Last Frontier, and I've closed my eye around the pencil and I'm running it back and forward, and this way you'll line both the upper and lower waterline. I wanted that outer edge to be a little bit smokier on the lid area so that it balanced out with the lower lash line. I was just looking back and I just kind of felt that it was a bit bottom heavy, so I'm sweeping a little black over and back on that outer edge. I wanted then to add a bit of pop, or I suppose a bit of brightness to the inner portion of the eye, so I'm taking the shade Good Karma. There's no real shimmer to this or anything, it's just a nice kind of off-white shade that's just going to add a bit of brightness. Then I've added my lashes, and now I'm using the Urban Decay Lash Freak Mascara to blend my own lashes in with the false ones and to also coat the lower lash line. And the lashes that I've used are the Sosu Glam lashes in the style Milan. But then that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful and easy to follow. If you did, please let me know by giving me a comment, subscribing or a thumbs up, whichever you fancy. And I'll catch you all really soon.